Hello, everybody. This is my project, A New Kind of Intelligence. So, hi, my name is Mark Harmon, and I'm a STEM instructor at Ashland Middle School in Ashland, Kentucky. For this specific project, my area of focus was student engagement, authenticity, and relevancy. So, first off, just in general, it is imperative that we keep students engaged with their content. When content is outdated, students can become disengaged very quickly. So, with STEM, the issue arises then that technology that you feel as though is cutting edge or innovative within a year or two is very quickly outdated. So our job is to continuously strive to stay at the forefront of what that means. So for this project, um, because I'm going to talk about more here in a little bit, I wanted to utilize artificial intelligence to achieve that goal. Next up comes authenticity. So, if a learning is unable to make a personal connection with students, they very quickly become disinterested, which leads to poor performance. So, in the past, I have done units on artificial intelligence before, and that's what it was missing was that authentic component. Students weren't able to get hands-on quite like they were in this one. And then finally, relevancy. It's got to give students that connection. As we were kind of talking about with that engagement, if it's outdated, then very quickly it's no longer relevant. And then also with the authenticity, if it can't be applied to a real world situation, then that can be an issue as well. So for this project, my research question was, will the implementation of emerging technologies increase student engagement in the classroom and help encourage them to explore new potential careers? So overarching for this one specifically, we utilized artificial intelligence. This is something that in the future does keeping the curriculum stocked full of emerging technologies really assist with keeping students engaged and therefore achieving where we want them to achieve. So my action plan, I wanted to focus on active learning. So once again, some hands-on, students actually engaging and applying critical thinking skills directly to their learning. Research shows that increases retention, can also help foster real-world problem solving, and then once again our relevancy, just giving them context for which they can apply that understanding. So for my plan was to have students engage in active learning activities as they learn about and apply technologies in the field of artificial intelligence. This hands-on experience will help students better understand the future implications of and consider a potential career in this emerging field. So with my innovation grant, I purchased some voice AI kits through Google, vision AI kits the same way, and which we'll get more into here in a minute. They're sold as do-it-yourself kits, and they've got step-by-step directions. But when you get into kind of personalizing some of those, they're not exactly what they were built up to be. Mark Robot, so that's an artificially intelligent autonomous vehicle, and then batteries so that we can keep things running. So with this, my actual implementation, I have a STEM class called Solve for Tomorrow, and it's a real-world problem-solving class in which students are given the opportunity to develop their own authentic solutions. They identify the problems and then they develop their authentic solutions. So I did the AI unit with them. We introduced some of the AI technology for that component of it where they had to develop the solutions. And then later on in the year, we did a lesson on like a passion project in which students were able to select what they wanted to engage with, and then or what they wanted to learn more about, and then do their own research on that one. And that's where the autonomous vehicles came in, and we'll get more into that in just a moment. One of the first projects was Can It Be Recycled? For this project, students wanted to create a resource that could identify recyclable objects and inform the user where they could go to recycle them. Secondarily, students just having it available, they thought, during lunch in the cafeteria would increase awareness, kind of give it something that makes it kind of not necessarily taboo, but make it something that students typically wouldn't think about, and then therefore increase the chances that they may recycle it. Over here is an image in the bottom right of the vision kit identifying a water bottle, and then up here is messing around on the Raspberry Pi side of things, because this was powered by a Raspberry Pi that is built within it. But in just a moment, I'll kind of go more in depth with some of the issues we ran into with that. And actually, this group that utilized this, they had a much larger project that included other facets as well, but they were Kentucky state champs for community problem solving, which was pretty neat. At-home AI assistant, I was going to take the time to kind of walk you through that one, but this group was Solve for Tomorrow, Samsung Solve for Tomorrow Kentucky State Champions. They actually won our school $6,500 with their project, and they'll present this at STLP as well. We'll see how they do, but here's the video that they composed for the project.
Alzheimer's is a brutal affliction that decimates
I feel like the video does a much better job describing it than I would have.
numerous lives each year. Author Jeff Kluger summarized it best when he remarked that suffering is always hard to quantify, especially when the pain is caused by as cruel a disease as Alzheimer's. Most illnesses attack the body. Alzheimer's destroys the mind and, in the process, annihilates the very self. As the disease progresses, those that suffer require more and more assistance just so they can continue living their day-to-day lives.
People with Alzheimer's struggle with a lot of daily tasks that just seem easy to us, and like how could we forget that, but they have a really hard time with it.
This often requires intense supervision by loved ones or removal from the home and placement in an assisted living facility. However, studies have shown that placement in these facilities has been associated with accelerating the rate of cognitive decline and disease progression. As the disease reaches the later stages, life expectancy shortens. Therefore, the goal of our project is to help keep them in their homes as long as possible and to help alleviate some of the burdens placed on their loved ones.
People in my family have Alzheimer's, and I know how tough it is to keep them, help them remember and not let them forget everything. And when they do forget, it's hard to keep them on track to what they need to do during a day. Because when they have to be looked after by your family, but your family has to go to work, then it's kind of tough on them because they don't know what to do.
My great-grandmother has Alzheimer's, and she was lucky enough to have her sister with her whole life, once she got it. But I know that some people aren't that lucky and they'll need a device like this.
So our project is, we're trying to help people with Alzheimer's disease stay in their homes longer.
Our project is about helping people with Alzheimer's, helping their families get over the fear of them wandering off, forgetting to do something.
Our device has a built-in touchscreen powered by a Raspberry Pi that will provide them with important information and reminders.
Additionally, as the disease progresses, those that suffer can begin to forget people that they know. Our device uses voice recognition to help identify loved ones and helps them know who they can trust.
Our device utilizes a motion-activated camera to notify a designated caregiver when their loved one has left or if someone else has entered their home.
We have an internal battery that can keep the device operational for hours in the event of a power outage. If this happens, things can be really scary, so we want to make sure it remains operational.
Well, I think it's important that everyone deserves the same chance at life than everyone else. Especially if you have one of these diseases, that you deserve a chance to live as long as you can and have the best life possible.
So with that, they did have other aspects as well, not just the artificial intelligence, but that was one of the components that they included within their design. So Obstacles and updates. So during the project, there were a few obstacles. For example, that Vision AI kit I was talking about, the getting it to do our own custom things was much more complicated than we had anticipated. We got it to where it could identify the objects. You saw the one image where it was identifying a water bottle, but then once it had identified, we have yet to get it to where it could do anything with the information. Additionally, the AI car, we have one actually right here. We've got, the students have gotten them built. This one a couple kids are doing with their passion project, but they haven't got that far yet. They haven't got it to where it's up and running and operational. They've just begun on that one. So evaluation, my desired outcomes for the project was to see if students display increased levels of engagement with their classroom content, students to demonstrate an in-depth understanding of content through the creation of virtual experiences, and then students to demonstrate an increased understanding of content principles. So I feel like that my goals were met pretty well. As far as the content goes, very few knew. It was a fairly basic quiz, but only 32% had achieved what had been set out as a passing score on a quiz pre-instruction, and then post-instruction that jumped up to 76%, which is pretty good, but probably would have expected that to be a little higher. Beforehand, 20% said that they'd indicated they'd be interested in learning more about AI, but then once they were able to actually get into it, get hands-on, and play with it a little bit more, that number jumped up to 80% of that particular group of students, which was extremely encouraging, especially because a lot of those students are actually 7th graders and will have the opportunity to expand upon that next year with them. So observations, as I mentioned earlier, in the past, I taught a unit about artificial intelligence, but with that one, it was exclusively based on videos and online resources. There weren't any hands-on components. So students were engaged with some of those activities, but it was surface level engagement. And they still, at the end of it, didn't really find it interesting. However, this year, the hands-on project side of things and then the funding we were able to get with this innovation grant really made the difference, increased student interest dramatically, and then even the ones that did not necessarily pursue completing an AI build, they all had to come up with a concept. All of them didn't necessarily have to build it, but they were extremely interested in the ones that their peers presented. In conclusion, so without the materials purchased as part of this grant, I would not have been able to engage students to the level that I did. Huge thank you goes out to KVEC and then their offering of this innovation grant. It's really helped our program grow over the last several years, and this year included. Students' comprehension increased in conjunction with their engagement, and then moving forward, I do plan to continue to use this unit and these materials in the future. So thank you for listening. Once again, thank you to KVEC for providing us with this grant. If you have any questions, here is my email. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you. Hope you all have a great day.